Peru is one of the fastest growing economies in Latin America, and monetary policy really lies at the heart of that. Julio Velarde is the chairman of Peru's central bank. So could I ask you here at the roadshow, what is it that your message is to the Hong Kong audience?
I would say that Peru is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. Over the last 5 years, we, with China and India and Qatar, have been the 4 fastest growing economies. And within the Latin American region, by far, Peru has been the fastest growing economy. Actually, a rates of growth, a rates of investment are more similar to Asia than to other emerging market regions.
And so do you see Peru's monetary policy really continuing along the same lines as it has done in the recent past?
I would say we were pretty ambitious. First, we were the first country in the world to start inflation targeting with negative inflation. In most of the places, you use inflation targeting to bring down inflation. In our case, it was to introduce a monetary policy to increase monetary stimulus without affecting inflation expectations. And we had a pretty ambitious target. Our target is 2 ± 1, which actually is the most ambitious within emerging markets.
And you really see this policy continuing along the same lines?
Yes. And actually, during the last decade, our inflation has been 2.4%, in spite of the commodity shocks that everybody has suffered starting 2007.
Commodities is really at the heart of Peru's export drive, but do you see that as being a problem because of the volatility in the commodities markets?
Of course, we are vulnerable, but I believe tailwinds have been well used by the country. So the sectors that have been growing at a faster rate have been sectors not linked to commodities. Actual exports, non-commodity exports, have been growing at a rate twice that one of commodity exports.
So, Mr. Velarde, in coming to East Asia, do you see there an alignment now developing between Latin American countries and also the Asia Pacific, and Asia in particular?
Certainly, and I would say particularly the case of Peru, where almost 20% of the population has some sort of Chinese blood, because of migration that started 135 years ago.
Of course, China has been internationalizing its currency, the renminbi. Is that a process you see continuing?
Yeah, there has been some operation with central banks in Latin America. In the case of the Central Bank of Chile, they have a account with the People's Bank of China. We're working on that also with our central bank. And there has been some sort of agreements to use the renminbi as an invoice currency for some exports in Brazil, Argentina, other countries. I believe it's a process that has already started. But of course, it will take some years.
And do you see Hong Kong as being central to the internationalization of the Chinese currency?
Almost every central bank is trying to diversify the composition of its currency of reserves. Of course, as you know, the dollar was the most important in the euro. But since those currencies, those are in 2 areas that are being affected by recession, negative growth, everybody's trying to diversify the currencies. And we are also in that process. And in our case, we have been using Hong Kong-based banks to diversify into renminbi.
So I wonder what your thoughts are on Peruvian institutions, banking institutions, using Hong Kong as a base for the Asia-Pacific.
I believe Hong Kong is a hub for China. You have the airport that is just after one in Tokyo, and the third airport in the world, one of the most important ports. And so you are a hub not only for trade, but also for services for the continent. And I believe that is going to continue for a long time.